go, guys. All right, I had clicked go live, and apparently my computer wasn't listening to me. Sorry. All right. Have you guys tried Maimeri Blu watercolors? I hadn't. And thanks to a big supporter of the channel, I can't say enough. This person just does so much as a big part of both the members here on YouTube and on Patreon. And huge thank you to Rob for sending me these and to try. He is always challenging me, I'm telling you. And so anyhow, our palette today is courtesy of Rob. I'm going to be sharing with you the colors that he sent me. I've already swatched them out, so we're not going to go through all of that. But then we're going to actually dive into painting with these. I have not painted with them yet. I saved that just for today, and I've been just itching to get in there and play with these colors. I can't wait to see what they do. Drop me a comment and let me know. Have you used them? What do you think of these? Are they a favorite? I don't know. Is this going to like start a new collection that's going to grow and grow and grow? But yes, huge thank you to Rob and I have tagged him in the description, but huge thank you to him for sharing these colors with me because I'm really excited to give these a try. Also, I want to give a big thank you to Meeden. You're going to see, excuse me. Sorry guys, you're going to see both a new palette and a water well. And if you can see right here behind me, Meeden also sent me their set of watercolor brushes. Now, I'm going to have more on this stuff for you in a video coming up. I believe it'll be next Tuesday. So stay tuned for that if you want to know more. But as I do, when I want to check out some new brushes, we're going to be using these over the course of the next few weeks so I can really give them a try and see what I think. My first impression, these brushes are really light as far as holding them in your hand, but they're comfortable. Very lightweight, but comfortable, and they feel well balanced. Like, even though the handles feel lightweight, they don't feel like brush heavy. You know what I mean? Like this end doesn't feel heavy in comparison. They do feel well balanced. So I'm excited to see just how well I like these brushes. I'm going to paint with them today. Now, I will say one of the things that immediately, I checked is I was checking out all of the ferrules. Not a single loose ferrule. So already, Meeden, huge thank you, because that is such a pet peeve. I cannot stand when the ferrules come loose on my brush. You guys know I stopped, Nick Pro. I had to look over there, see, like, what were those brushes again? The Nick Pro brushes. I can't promote that anymore, and I don't use them because the ferrules all started coming loose, and that is such an annoyance to me. So today we're going to be using these brushes. Thank you, Meeden. And wait until you see the rinse well that they sent me. Of course, I had to add my own touch to it. You will see some little tiny paint pucks in there. I meant to link them in the description and I forgot. I can always go back and do that after. So if you're watching on the replay, hopefully I will have remembered and they will be there. The palette that I'm mixing on today is a ceramic palette, and it is actually the lid for this guy. You're going to find out more about this in Tuesday's video, so I'm not going to spoil it. There's no spoilers. But that palette is a Meeden palette, and its lid is porcelain. I love it. I love it. It's not just a plastic lid. It's a porcelain lid. So I can mix in it, and I'm thrilled. So that's what we're going to be using, because let's just take you to the desk so I can start to show you these things. All right. Excuse me. Now we have, this is the lid of the palette that I was just showing you. And just so you can see this, it is just so cute. It just goes together just like that. I love it. I definitely recommend. All you have to do is click the link in the description below, and then click on the drop down menus and select palettes. You'll find it in there. It's the 24 well palette with a lid. And look at the size. I mean, it's perfect. It's like the size of my hand. Perfect for adding to this. This palette, you guys have actually seen the actual palette before. This was the one that I just had my Winsor & Newton Professional paints in. But spoiler alert, Rob sent me a couple new colors in the Winsor & Newton Professional as well. And, well, that outgrew this palette already. And as I do... Oh, I just got something in my eye. You know, I tend to take off the little trays. I just slide the pins out, and, you know, I leave them here so I can reconnect it if I wanted to. Like if I was going to go plein air painting and I wanted this palette, then I would probably connect this, because then I could use that out and about. But in my studio, I don't like those little sides, so I tend to take those off, and then it just fits perfectly. I mean, how perfect are these two together? I can mix up here, or I can mix here. You know, I can't stand the metal pellets mixing on the metal pellets that bead up. They just drive me bonkers. So yeah, I am super thrilled to have. Now, Meaden didn't, this one I purchased, but Meaden did send me this Rinsewell, and this, guys, this is heavy. It is ceramic. It's two sides. I put the little mini paint pucks in here. So that's for my dirty water, my clean water. Wait till you see this today, because as long as I can keep remembering to only go into this side for my, you know, when I first rinse my brushes. I was using that the other day, yesterday as a matter of fact, and all of a sudden, sorry, also my nose feels like it wants to run. This was disgusting, but this side was still perfectly clean, and I'm loving it. I mean, I still, don't get me wrong, my paint pucks are still on the desk, because I do like to store, you know, whenever my brushes are done and they're drying, I always keep them up here for extra. But there's my brush. I always put my brushes like this to dry. Always. If they weren't on here, they'd be laid flat. Never ever would I take a wet brush and just stick it back in here like that to dry. So we don't want that water going down into the Pyrrole, loosening the glue, all of that. Hi, James GSR. How are you? Welcome to the stream. I love seeing new faces. Well, I guess faces if you have a picture, but new names popping in the chat. Hi to George and Tara. Rob is here, so again, thank you so much, Rob. And George Pencil Art, I think I said that. Tara and Joseph are both here, our moderators, and their channels are linked in the description below. So, you know, when you get a chance, if you haven't checked them out, I encourage you to do so. Now, I do have my coffee right here beside me. That's what you see here on my warming pad. I got coffee and water today. Just mixing it up. It is snowing out. Excuse me. Oh, thank you, Rob. And there goes Rob again, helping us all out, gifting some memberships, and they are starting to come through now. If I call your name out, congratulations, because you received a gifted membership from Rob. So Nanette, Snow, Nafisa, forgive me if I say your name wrong, Darlene, Sheila, let's get the party started, Rob says, Rachel, Angie, hi Angie, I'm also an Angie, Pamela, Christina, Kelly, Kylie, excuse me, I saw Kelly, I looked fast, Kylie, all of you, welcome. And if you have, for all of our super fans and anybody who has received a super fan gifted membership from Rob, excuse me, Christine says, hello all, I have lurked before but thought I'd say hi today. Oh, we're so glad you did. Everybody, a huge hello to Christine. We are glad you did. All right. If you are a super fan or you have received a gifted membership, I posted about this in the community tab last week. But just in case you missed it, Discord is now open to you. So our Discord server is now open to super fans and up. So if you're a super fan for just $2.99 a month, who can resist, right? You not only get all the new emojis that I put out each week, there are new ones this week. Check them out. And you also get the badge that goes beside your name in the chat. And in addition to that, you now can join us on Discord. Here's the catch. You have to connect your Discord to YouTube. If you're unsure how to do that, I did put it in a community post. It explains everything to you. But if your Discord is connected to YouTube, it is going to automatically connect you into our Discord server. So welcome. I look forward to seeing everybody. And if you do connect to the Discord server, please pop in and say hi to those of us who are there, because, you know, we love having new artists to chat with. All right. Let's talk about today, what we're doing. Let's get right into it. Here is my swatch. I said I wasn't going to swatch these. It's because I've already done it. Let's go full screen so you can see that a little better. There are my colors. Now here, if you see the number up here, that is the color number from Maimeri Blu. Yeah, I spelled it wrong, but that was fine. I fixed it. And these are the colors that Rob sent me. So these were his choices. We are going to look at those, talk about them today. How beautiful does that palette look? Just gorgeous. And I'm curious, Rob, you did not select. Now this is kind of a warm blue. So, I mean, that's there, but you didn't select a ultramarine and a phthalo, which, oh, actually, excuse me. You have phthalo right here. Primary blue cyan is actually PB15:3. So phthalo is there, but you didn't select ultramarine. So we do have our cooler blue here. I love that Cerulean is actually PB35. It is Cerulean. Prussian blue, PB27. Loving the single pigment choices, Rob. And then I don't know how they say that. Guys, you know how they say that. Faience blue, PB60. Give me a phonetic drop in the chat because I don't want to say it wrong. And I know I'm going to. Then there is, oh, so yeah, I was just curious that you didn't go with an ultramarine. I can't wait to try this as the warmer blue in the bunch. Love the Quin Violet, which is PV55. Let's just start in order, right? We have primary yellow, PY97. Transparent yellow, PY150. Green gold, PY129. Green gold is beautiful. I think we're probably going to use some green gold today. Sap green, PG17. Which, if I'm not mistaken, sap green is normally like a chromium oxide green. So I thought it was interesting that they used it as a single pigment choice for their sap green. Love it. I love the tone of that green. Very speaks to me liking to use the or liking to paint landscapes. So then we do have the phthalo green, which they call, okay guys, I can't even read my own handwriting. Glasses time. Cupric Green Deep, C-U-P-R-I-C, Cupric Green Deep. And that's why I included the numbers, because, you know, and I did list these. They're all listed in the description below. So the numbers and the colors. So if you're interested or you see any color that you're like, oh, wow, I really would love to try that, they're all listed down below. Just click see more, or what, I don't remember how I think it says see more or just more, and it'll expand that description and everything is down there. And Rob says, I need to buy more tubes for our half pan painting swap. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Excuse me. So this Cupric Green Deep PG7 is phthalo green. That's what you would, the more common name you would know it by. Primary blue cyan, which is PB15:3. That is a phthalo blue green shade. The quinacridone red, PR209. Primary red magenta, which is PV19. Quin violet, PV55. I'm really excited to have that one. See, I like it. Faience blue. That's my guess for now. So we're just gonna leave it that way. And that is PB60, which I love. I ordered PB60 from Core, which is Endanthrum blue, and that is still on back order. So Rob's waiting for that. We were doing, like he said, a little color swap. I'll get more into that in a minute. Then we have Prussian blue, PB27, Cerulean sky blue, PB35. That is true Cerulean, PB35. Permanent red light, which is PR168. The Pyrrole orange, PO71. And the permanent orange, PO64. I'm really excited for these colors. I don't usually use the oranges. Hey, Faience. Thank you, Joseph. Faience. Like seance. Faience. All right. And it's an Egyptian blue. Thank you so much, Joseph. So the orange, if you pay attention to my palettes, you don't see a lot of orange, like specifically PO pigments in my palettes. I don't tend to use them as often. Maybe sunsets, things like that. Not that they don't have their use. I just don't tend to gravitate towards them. I would generally mix one. Excuse me. So I am very excited to now have these pigments and give them a try. And in fact, these pigments are what inspired today's choice in painting. Then we have Dragon's Blood, PBR 25. I just think the name is perfect. I absolutely love the name. So Dragon's Blood, which is PBR 25, that's a pigment I love. It's also a pigment that sometimes you have to be careful with because in its mass tone, Dragon's Blood, and I'm not seeing it so much here on my swatch when I move that around, where I went more, I glazed over to get closer to that mass tone. Some brands you have to be really careful because PBR 25 in its mass tone will dry and actually look kind of shiny. So just something to keep in mind. And then Burnt Umber, PBR 7, and Carbon Black, PBK 7. So Carbon Black is also lamp black. So you may also know it as lamp black in other brands. There we are. Those are the colors that Rob has chosen. And I think we're going to get to use a variety. Now today I am painting, and I'm going to switch you up again. Okay. So today I am painting this Cardinal. Now we just had, in the wintertime, we put, by we I mean Lou, because it's not me. Our feeders, our bird feeders that we normally have like down in the yard all during spring and summer and fall. When it comes to winter time, Lou will take the big metal like shepherd's hooks. He has a couple of those that he actually brings up, and on the rail of our deck there's actually a couple holes that are drilled so that those can slide right in, and then we can have the bird feeders up on the deck, and it's easy for us to access them and help the birds out with food that they might not have access to during the winter because it gets cold up here in Maine. That, and I absolutely love the seeing the birds come up on the deck, especially the juncos. Oh my gosh, they are the cutest little birds. But we just had one day, it seemed like so many variety of birds. Oh, James GSR, I'm just noticing your question. And yes, thank you, Rob. James said, who makes the Dragon's Blood color? And that is Maimeri Blu. And James, it's linked right in the description below. I have a link that take you directly to where you can find these colors. And yes, Dragon's Blood is the PBR 25 right there. I think that's a gorgeous color. Okay. but we put that up there. And so we had purple finches, we had golden finches, we had some sparrows, we had some juncos, we had a pair of cardinals, and unfortunately, let me just show you. And click this on here. I couldn't get a good picture of the male cardinal. He was being like a little evasive. And the thank you, Joseph, for dropping the link. The I mean, that'd be great. Like, it's easy. This would be so easy to paint. No detail. You could do this very easily. I mean, just look at that shape. We're seeing, we've got like just an oval. We can just paint the mask around that beak. And I say so easy, and some of you are like, sure thing, so easy. Practice, right? Practice. But that said, the male did come to the deck, and we have to be really careful because we have French doors. So we can really see out, but that also means they can really see us. So if we move the wrong way, of course, they're going to scatter and try to fly away. But let me just close that one. The female came down and said hello. Their beaks are so orange. The male's was even more orange. I mean, oddly orange. Like, you don't really see that color in nature very often, but they are orange, like orange. And as soon as I saw them, and I was thinking about the pictures I had taken, because you can ask Rob. I had messaged him. I'm like, I am staring at a blank piece of paper. I have no idea what I'm going to paint, but I know I want to paint with these. And as I was staring at the palette, that orange just was what was grabbing me. And I was like, the cardinals. I'm going to paint one of the cardinals. So that's what we're doing today. And you can get this, the reference photo that you see right here below me. Sorry. I have shared that, and in fact, I pinned it in the live chat. So if you're with us live and in the live chat, there's a pinned comment for you to get that reference photo. It is over on my Patreon. You do not have to be a patron to get this photo. It's available for everyone. And if you didn't know, you can follow some of your favorite creators that are on Patreon for free. You do not have to pay to follow them. So yeah, if that's something that interests you, often I will put reference photos or line art for live streams. If I'm doing something that includes that, I'll drop it over on Patreon. So if you follow me there, you'll always know when it's coming up, because Patreon will notify you. So yes. All right, I am putting this away because the last thing I need to do is stick my paintbrush in my coffee, or knock my coffee cup over, because it was like right here, and this is definitely my hand space. I need to move my, actually you guys can't see it while we're up on this screen, and I think I'm going to stay on this screen. You can't really see. I'm going to put my rinse well up above, because the way I have these paint pucks, it's set up for this to be up in front of me, like so. Okay, now I'm also going to move that. I'll keep the reference photo up. I wasn't really thrilled, and of course I've just moved it, so it's really not gonna, I wasn't really thrilled with this view that's right here below me. We're still working on getting you another angle that'll be better for you, but for today, why don't we, not the male, why don't we just leave the female up there so that you can see her. And I'm just going to move my other camera out of the way. And how's that? I really want you guys to see how well this works. The two little mini paint pucks. So to start with, the medium brushes, excuse me. The medium brushes don't have like number sizes on them. This is the largest round brush. And I'm going to definitely use the larger like wash. Normally I would probably grab like my Princeton Neptune. This is very soft. This is not so, it's not as soft, but these are still, like, these bristles are just, they're so soft. It's definitely synthetic. They have the blue dye tips. Now I will show you, I've painted with this one, you see, of course, because they also are white. They're going to stain when you use them. It's normal. This holds a lot of water. I loved it. I used it when I was recording the video for you for, should be coming up on Tuesday. And I loved, so far, first impressions, I'm really liking the brushes. So I'm going to start, I want to put in a background. And I have no idea. You see in the reference photo, there's the trees that are that big, trying to think what that is. That is an ash tree. And behind it there, you can see some of our evergreens that have snow on those branches. And it is snowing right now. And if you look at the Cardinal, if you look under her belly, look at how much is reflecting up from that snow. So I think when I paint this, because I just put her on a little branch instead of the railing of my deck, I am going to paint snow on my branch. So my background, I'm just want it to be kind of out of focus, and I don't even know. We're just gonna play with some colors because I want to see how these work wet and wet. So to start with, I'm just going to wet the background around the bird. We're just going to drop in some colors and make it look like a blurry background. Now I'm working on, before I get too far in, the Medium 100% cotton watercolor paper. Love this paper, guys. If you haven't used cotton before, or you're looking for an affordable cotton paper to give a try, I think sometimes when we start with cotton paper, if we go, and I know this was the case for me, if we get past the sticker shock of like buying arch paper, arches to some of you, we go, oh my gosh, like spent so much money on that. And you get really precious about it. You're like, well, I don't want to waste my paper. Practicing is not wasting your paper. It is learning. And you're not going to, in my opinion, you're not going to learn and get used to that unless you use it. And really just throw all caution to the wind, dive in and play with it. But you might be a little less precious if it costs you less. And the median comes in, they are blocks. So just like ours comes in a block, these are a block. Hi, Sheila. So you can get these. They will come in block form. There are 20 sheets in a block. I'm just painting around my Cardinal that I have drawn. I just quickly sketched this in. So yeah, there's 20 sheets in a block. And I love this paper. If it buckles at all, you might have a little, what is it, cockling, as Diane Anton. Do you guys watch Diane Anton? Diane Anton Studio? She cracks me up. She absolutely cracks me up. Anyhow, if you put a lot of water in this and you get some, like, you'll see the paper kind of lift or move. It doesn't lift off the edges by any means. No, this will not come off the block. You have to take it off the block. But it will dry right back nice and flat. And I can show you a few of the paintings that we've done recently with this paper. I just love it. Just going to continue to wet around you. I'm going to switch up. I'm going to grab my round brush because I want to be careful as I come around the bird here. This round brush, now granted, I've only painted with it once. Not really enough time for me to damage the point or anything of it. Well, I mean, I guess if I was being really mean to the brush. I might have been able to, but I didn't. It holds its point really well. So of course I definitely like that. I was able to get some really fine lines, and I just used this large brush. You'll hear me talk in the video, well, as long as it makes the cut when I go to editing. I talked about my choices, like if I was creating my own set versus the brushes that they give you in this set, what I would change or what I wish was different. So I did share some of that information. I wish I could create my own set of brushes. One day. One day, perhaps. I definitely have an opinion of what brushes would be perfect for watercolor, especially if you're just starting and we're trying to grab a set of brushes. Now, some of this, I didn't necessarily go all the way to the edge, like some out here might be a little dry. It's fine. I'm going to do this background. I think I want it to be kind of like a vignette. Oh yes, Sheila, we're glad you're here. Okay. So for the background, let's just drop some background colors in there. We're not gonna be all fancy. We're not paying any particular, it's the background. It can be whatever. Let's do, it's wintertime though. So with these colors, let me show you. So there was Carbon Black. There's no Payne's Gray in this set. However, there's also no Raw Sienna, which my go-to is usually Raw Sienna and Ultramarine. Raw Sienna's not here, Ultramarine's not here, and Neutral Tint is not here, or like a Payne's Gray. So, looking at this palette, immediately the warmth and the reddish qualities of this Dragon's Blood, the PBR 25, and the Faience. Did I say that right, Joseph? The Faience Blue PB 60. Let's try to mix those and see what we get. Because looking at these, I didn't give these a spritz ahead of time. Don't know if I needed to, but we're going to find out. All right, so our Faience Blue. Look at that. That is so pretty. That's so pretty. I can't wait for my Indanthrone Blue, which is PB 60, to come in from Core. All right, now I'm gonna put these on my palette here side by side. So now I'm gonna pull them together and we'll see how much we need of each, and does it make the color I'm expecting? And yes, it will. It's gonna be beautiful. Right, so we have some Payne's Gray type color. And hopefully this is still plenty wet enough. It's not. Because I talked and mixed and talked and just grab my brush again. Not a big deal, see? Not gonna let that get us. I think winter sky, especially like right now, I look out my window and it is like, it's all gray. Of course it's snowing, so of course it's gray. Lots of clouds. Doesn't it take forever for stuff to go from the US to Ireland? I'm reading Rob's comment about Tara's package being on a dinghy. Somebody's rowing it over there. Okay, set that brush down. I'm going to drop some of this blue in. I'm also going to drop some of that color we mixed. Just let those kind of mingle on the page. I'm going to grab just a touch. I want that to be a little darker. Grabbing a touch of the carbon black, and we're going to bring that in. And I did say kind of vignette, didn't I? Now remember, your colors are going to dry lighter. Don't be afraid to just drop stuff in. Another thing, let's grab that. Take some burnt umber. Darken that up. Maybe there's a tree back there. Perhaps there are a few. Not in my, well, I do have trees in my yard, but we should bring that right down. We're going to want this to just really push back. So we're definitely doing, did someone say tree? There we go, George. Oh, and you know, George, I can't paint trees without thinking about you now. So just know every time I paint a tree, I think of George pencil art. Now also, I was gonna do this one on a, I was considering painting him on a birch tree because, you know, I love birch trees too. I really want to let's grab some of this green gold, some of the sap green. All right. And let's tone that down just a bit. That's a little brown. See, I always end up getting so carried away. That's why sometimes it's helpful. This is one that Meaden did send me. It's helpful to have little palettes like this because it kind of keeps your mixing contained. So, you know, who knows? I may grab for that. Just grabbing a touch of the carbon black. Just want to kind of make a shade of that there. There we go. All right, so perhaps back here, I have them in my yard. You see them in the reference photo right here. There are some, oh, I got that right into a bird. There we go. Just touch that and lift that up. Someone's not paying attention to her sketch. Right, and just to make sure, I want to keep this going wet and wet. I wasn't seeing a shine. Everything in this studio dries so darn fast. Okay, we're just gonna leave. And you notice I'm kind of dropping in. I'm leaving white space. It is winter. There is white back there. So just letting it, kind of letting it do its thing. It was a little too dry. You see how you have so much more hard lines here versus what was in the back. And see how when I put those paint pucks there, that just happens to be where I always naturally reach. And I just kind of will rub my brush on that little miniature paint puck. And then I can just go from my dirty water to my clean water. I have not had any instances where this paper has not been able to handle the water that I throw at it. And I throw some water at it. It has never pilled or given me any issues like that either. All right, so we just have some trees back there, right? Or the hint that there are trees back there. All right, let's see. I think we need a little bit more going on over here. I'm not pulling. I'm coming across very lightly because I want to make sure that this is still plenty wet, so this color will disperse and just become really soft in the background. But I don't want to really disturb a ton of that paint that I put down. So just very lightly. We're just going to drop some of this color in and let it kind of do whatever it does. I think I want some green in that area where I just dropped that. I'm going to lift a little bit of that out. The reason I want green is because I'm going to paint her beak orange. Okay, so let's get some. I have some nice contrast that'll be back there. But I'm going to figure out what is that. That's right. That's right. It's another tree. And you're just going to see that all this stuff is just going to it's just going to push backwards real fast as soon as we start painting her. It's winter time, so we can definitely see through things. Look at that. It's starting to take shape. Yeah, Academy paper. Yes, James. So James just says, I have the Academy paper and it holds up to everything. I'm rather shocked. So Academy, which is Bauhong, the Academy paper and the Meeden paper, they're almost identical when you paint on them. I don't want to say they are identical. Could be wrong. They are both sold by Meeden. So you definitely, if you click the link to Meeden below, and James, this might benefit you. If you prefer the Bauhong versus the Meeden branded block, you can get that from Meeden. And there is a discount code in the description below. So, help you save a little bit when you get that paper. And it definitely helps tell the folks at Meeden that I sent you along and am loving the products that they've sent me. And I do. I absolutely do. I certainly recommend these to anyone who is looking for, especially if you're looking for a cotton paper. I encourage you to give these a try. Let's let this guy be taller. See how I kind of made that taller? Just wanted him more. There we go. All of a sudden he's more. And when I pause for this to start to dry, see, this quickly has just taken it from something that was maybe out of my yard And put this Cardinal into the woods. I'm going to let this dry for a little bit because I just want that to really soften up. Maybe we'll put a little bit more. Love this blue. I would love to see their PBK 11. What I'm doing right now, mixing this PB60, this I see. All I hear now, Joseph, is Seance. It's Seance blue, Faience blue, and the carbon black. Now, if I mixed these two, they're very. They really make me think of like the Lunar Black by Daniel Smith. Just gonna give a little bit more. Want a little bit more moodiness there in my sky. It's winter time. Soften that up so I don't have any hard edges. And all I did was just dampen my brush, wiped that off, and then went back in along that edge. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. So if you're following along, it kind of looks a little sloppy right now, doesn't it? Yeah, that's my story, James, too. It's going to be a while, but it's going to be a little hot minute before I can get something else. So I'm going to let this set for a second. But while that is setting, let's grab it. It's right here. This is the paper that James was talking about. This is Academy. It is by Bao, but it's also sold by Meaden. If you found this on Amazon, it would be sold through the Meaden store on Amazon. Meaden is the one who sells this. And this is also beautiful paper. It is gummed on all four sides. And I mean, you see everything. Like the packaging, aside from the cover, right? How they're pretty sure it's pretty close to the same paper. But either, I definitely recommend either. You're going to pay just slightly more for this pad. It is 10.2 by 7. This, which is, again, I've told you guys before, this is the old cover. They have changed the new cover, and instead of it being gummed green on the sides, it's now clear, just like the Bao is. I do have the newer. I'm just using through the older stock. So, yeah. This 10.2 by 7, 10.2 by 7, 20 sheets, both 100% cotton. And if you paint on them, and I have compared them, I have a video of that here on the channel. I can't say 100% that they are identical, but they are so similar that I think you could easily go back and forth either one, no problem. Oh, and just to show you, we haven't used it yet. I can't wait to do something on the rough. I'm trying to decide what to paint on the rough paper because I did order a block of that. That is the 10 by 7. They have the rough, the hot press, and cold press. So, and I do have the hot press as well, but I don't know. Okay. Now, that's still pretty cool. I think the paint has settled enough that I could probably hit this with my heat tool. Thank you, Sheila. Sheila says it looks nice. And I am going to try something. You guys will have to let me know if it helps with the sound on the heat tool. Okay, so you guys can still hear me. Did it sound like my audio changed? Because there was a plugin I could use for my stuff. And supposedly you can't hear my heat tool right now, but hopefully you can hear me. I don't know if that's the truth. Is it now a magic hair dryer like Joseph has? You let me know. I'm hoping. Joseph says I have magic. So when I talk, are you able to hear me? It doesn't, it come through when I'm talking. Oh, James, thanks for stopping by. I hope you'll join us again. We're live every Thursday, 3 p.m. Okay. Hopefully I'm back to my normal mic, but clear as a bell and no dry noise at all. Perfect. I don't stay on that one because I noticed I tried to record a video using that one time just to kind of test it out because I reached out. That's still a little cool to the touch. We're going to let it set for a moment longer. But I reached out to the guys over at Ecamm and was like, can we get noise suppression on our microphone, please? And somebody had recommended now I can wear my witch's hat. Recommended that I try Crisp. So that's what that is. But I recorded a video with it, and when I got into editing, just examining my audio, I wasn't as thrilled as like when I record just with my normal mic. So, but I definitely think, it's something that I can certainly use when I'm streaming to not have that stupid dryer messing with your ears. Look at how this is already starting. And also noticing that I have been using the browns and that blue and the black. That water's not cloudy yet at all. I like that. All right. I think it's still really cool to the touch here. So I know it's not completely dry, but I don't think my paint's going to carry off into that too much. So I need to paint our branch. For the branch, I think I'm going to grab some more of this burnt umber. And I want some more of the dragon's blood. I just love the name of the color. There's a little of that orange in there too, but that's all right. It was like right on the edge of the pan. Look how red toned that is. Ooh, look at it pushing. I touched the umber. Look at it like it's a bully. It's just pushing that umber away. So PBR 25 wants to push PBR 7. So that could be good to know. You drop that in a wet wash. If you drop the dragon's blood in a wash next to, see, I'm just making it be a bully. Look at, see how it pushes that PBR 7. So if you drop dragon's blood into a wash that has PBR 7 in it, it's gonna push. It's gonna get a little bullish. All right. Let's just paint our branch because that'll be easy. Now, remember, I said I wanted to have it look like there was some snow on the branch. So I'm just going to get that water off my ferrule. Bring this down, a little bit of both. Let's kind of mix that together. And I'm working wet on dry. Want my glasses. And we're just going to leave some of that white space, painting around where I'm going to have these little birdie feet. I went right up to it on the bird there. Didn't want that. I just said I'm going to leave some white space. Oh, go right up to the top. If I don't have as much white space as I want to, of course, I can always come back with like my Dr. P.H. Martins and put some of it back. The way that snow falls, it is not going to be a straight line. So don't try to paint it as one. once we've laid in this first layer of the mixture of the dragon's blood and the umber, and that is burnt umber, I'm going to come back with some more of just the burnt umber. And then that'll be wet and wet because this is already wet. There we go. Doing a little negative painting around the bird's toes. All right, now I'm going to take that burnt umber. I need that a little stronger. My brush was dry. But I want it a little bit stronger, a little bit more pigment than water. So just thickening up that mixture just a bit. Because I'm dropping it into dropping it wet and wet. And so this paper is already wet. So there's already water there. And that's going to help dilute it even more. Don't worry. Like, see how I bumped down? It's a branch. Branches aren't perfectly straight. Don't worry if you kind of bump or move. It's fine. If your line is not perfectly straight, it's just going to look more authentic, for lack of a better word. There we go. Starting to give some shape to that branch. This is a little dull. Now look how dirty this water is starting to get. You see I always kind of wipe. Oh, no you can't because I just went off the camera. You see how I always like wipe the brush off, then I come into my clean water. And you can just kind of control that water. If I didn't tap my brush on, excuse me, a tissue or a paper towel, or a lot of times you'll see me use my dirty, disgusting old rag. But I guess that's better for the environment. And wipe that off, because if I didn't, I'm going to keep bringing more water in here and I'm going to dilute this. Now mine dries really fast here. We already discussed that many times. So sometimes I have to add some water because some of it has already evaporated. But controlling your water is really important. So controlling how much water comes back into the wash that you've made, because otherwise your color is just going to keep getting lighter and lighter. Because, you know, in watercolor, we don't need to use white to lighten the color up. We just use more water. I think that's why I don't use white a lot in mixing. Of course, I don't paint with a lot of pastels either. So white is a color that I don't tend to, excuse me, I don't tend to keep on my palette. Now, the other thing that I want to do is, I said that this is snow. But just because it's snow doesn't mean that it's going to be, you know, this perfect white line going across my page. We're going to have, even in a branch this small, variations in the colors. There's going to be shadows, like the snow falls and it clumps up, and there will be shadows even on this tiny little branch covered in snow. So I'm going to let the brown dry first, and then I'll be adding some of that back in. But let's start with, I'm going to leave the legs because they're touching the branch. We're going to start painting in some of her body because we're going to have to keep going back and forth in different stages. I can't paint the tail on the underside because, again, it's going to touch that branch. But we can put in the color in the body. And so if we look at that color on the reference photo, excuse me, I'm seeing, and my palette is right here next to it. So look at this PBR 25 and look at her chest in that reference. those look really close. Also in the body, they have that brownish, it's not really green, but kinda, and I think that this green gold is going to really lend itself. I want to try to mix a little bit of the umber and a little bit of that green gold, and we're going to see what we get. I'm looking to see if I have a piece of scrap. So I have my pad of my bee inspired. This is just a cellulose paper, but 50 sheets. There's a link in the description for Walmart. If you shop at Walmart, usually Walmart.com always has this paper in stock. The price for 50 sheets, yeah, I do like this cellulose paper for, and it is a pad. There we go. Didn't want to rip out. It is a pad. Unlike the Canson that the Canson XL, I cannot stand. This is actually even more affordable. Can I get the texture to show up? Can you guys see the texture on there? I like the texture that's in the paper. And all in all, I like it. If I'm doing like a practice, trying to decide, what I might want to paint. A lot of times I'll just grab this paper. So I want to mix up a color, and I'm going to grab my umber. I know I have some up here, but I'm going to leave that because I was using it with the branch. So down here on my palette, I'm going to mix the umber. There we go. That to come off my brush, so I'm not just putting it all right into my rinse pot. And some of this green gold. Look at how it's really yellow. I'm going to want thin wash, and this is almost, we've got to gray this down a little bit. So let's just take a touch of, a touch of that carbon black and put it in there. I don't want to go too much. All right, now I think that this, I want to dilute that just a little bit. And now I can play a little bit more brown. And I'm looking at the reference photo. Now see where the chest kind of blends from the, that red. See those colors there? So I'm liking this for that. And then as we go, we need to get a little darker. All right, I think I'm going with that. So Sheila, that's great. I'm glad you mentioned. Sheila thanked Rob for the gifted superfan membership and says I don't know how to use it. It's already in use. So you see next to your name, Sheila, you have your little palette badge. That represents that you are now a member on the channel. All names that have the palette at the end of their name, the palette with the paintbrush, those are channel members. And the longer you're a channel member, your palette actually starts to change. So you get that. You also have access to the custom emotes. So if you click the little emote button, you're going to be able to scroll and see under Clark Fine Art, there's a whole section of emotes that are just exclusively for channel members. In addition, if you connect Discord to your YouTube channel, and if you're not sure how to do that, I do have a community post on that. So you can just go to my channel homepage here on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@ClarkFineArt, and click on the community tab, And there is a post that I just going to be one of the most recent posts, which shows you or tells you how to connect your Discord to YouTube. So once you have those connected, any channel that you become a member of where Discord is a benefit, it should automatically connect you and make that server available to you over on Discord. So if you are a Discord user, you now have access to our Discord as well. And we love to hang out and chat over there. If I'm sharing something, you guys will see it there first. I'm always dropping stuff in Discord. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself in Discord, but that's okay too. Like, I'm always sharing stuff in Discord. What I'm doing behind the scenes stuff, you will see it in Discord. So if you guys, if that's something that interests you, for as little as $2.99 a month, you can become a super fan and a member of the channel. It really does help a lot with supporting the channel and the content we create, or that I create. And yeah, huge thank you to everyone. And you can easily turn your gifted membership into a regular membership if you want to. You just have to visit the membership tab or click join below, which will take you there. But yeah, so that's how you use it. You are already actually using some of it. You just have access to the emotes that you can drop in chat. And again, that is a new benefit. That is a new benefit for all members and patrons. You now have access to the Discord server. But it is up to you to connect Discord to your YouTube login. But I do have very easy to follow instructions. I went and got the how-to and posted that for all of you in the community tab, because I know some of you are not familiar. And if you don't use it yet, but you want to, Discord is very easy to use. You just have to go there, and it is an app you can download like for your phone. And you just go there, download the app from your Play Store or App Store, depending on whether you're Apple or Google or Android. And log into Discord. I find it's easier when you sign up on Discord if you sign up with the same email that you have attached to your YouTube, because then they're kind of the same in both places, but you don't have to. But then, yeah, check out the community post and it'll tell you how to drop into that. All right, now I have only I've wet the paper here around the mask. I didn't wet where her mask is, and I didn't wet the beak yet. I've just wet around the body. I did not wet into the tail. So now let's drop some of this. Now there's a highlight along this front edge, so I am not going to add my paint right up to that edge, and it is darker, right? She's darker up here. So see how I'm leaving the edge? I'm not going all the way. This is all wet. I wet to the edge. So it will kind of gravitate there, but it will stay much lighter on the edge because I didn't paint all the way to it. And her reddish color comes around like this. Now she is darker at the top. We're going to put in a little bit more. Drop a little bit more color right there. A little extra pigment. If you guys are enjoying the stream today and the painting of this cardinal, I'd love it if you hit the thumbs up. Give it a like. Definitely is another way that you can help support the content. I don't think people realize like just how much you're helping your favorite creators when you do hit the like button on their videos. It really does help tremendously. I am going up to and around where her, that's very bright. I'm going to take this same color and put it up into the little, like, the feathers that stick back on her head. I'm going to come over all of this with this lighter color. Now her wing is going to have, I did leave that is all, wet. I wet the paper. Again, Down here, there's a lot of highlight with the light reflecting up from that snow when she landed on the railing. So I am going to leave. I'm not going to paint all the way to the edge. I'm going to leave some of that. Now this is just like first layer. We can always come back in and add more. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, because you know what, Sheila, I'm sure you are not the only one with that question. Knowing the demographics and the average age of, like my audience members, some of us, you know, come from, we don't use tech as much as others. I'm a tech junkie. I love the tech. This is the darker color I mixed up. But I know that not a lot of people use all the things. And one of the things that is hard sometimes, especially, is when we have something new. Discord can be something very new to some people. But it is a lot of fun, and it is a great way to be connected. And it's not Facebook. Nobody else has control over what you see. If you're in the server, if you have notifications turned on, you're getting notified. If I put out a post, or somebody else puts out a post, or, you know, somebody wants to tag and share something with you, you're gonna see it. And I love that. I meant to, as I'm looking at this, I'm like, you know, you meant to rub out those pencil marks before we started. I even had my kneaded eraser right here. Well, thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. And of course, that's one of the things that I often do. I never mix up enough color. And you know what? That's fine. Sometimes I think it's more challenging. It's like, game on. There's a little bit of a highlight up this edge, and I painted a little bit of that sky over into the face of my bird, but guys, don't worry about that. If you do that, it's fine. And it shifts, the feathers start to shift from going backwards to coming down. So let my strokes start to come this way. And again, this is going to dry lighter. I'm going to bring a little bit of this down the wing. You see this is very dry brushed, which tells me that this paper has dried. You see how that like skipped all over? The paper has dried. I'm going to get that wet again. Sheila says, I try to avoid tech mostly, yes. All right. First thing, one of the things I want to do next, before I get carried away, I want to let some of this dry and see what we're getting. But I'm going to re-wet the wing. And I'm just going right to the edge of our bird. I don't mind if it pushes. Now I just re-wet the wing, so I don't mind if that pushes a harder edge right here, because see, we're going to have more shadow there. I'm going to come back with more shadow. And I want to grab this. And I think I'm actually going to drop in a little bit of the, let's try the primary red magenta. Yeah. Grab just a tiny bit. Look how much that already is drying on my palette. That burnt umber. There we go. She might even be a little redder than that, but we can always come back. There is some highlight. I'm going to leave that edge a little bit lighter. In fact, I think I'm going to lift out. You see how clean this stays? Just with those paint pucks. Because I have to tell you, the first time I used the rinse well, I did not have those paint pucks in there. And what a difference. I'm just lifting back a little bit of that. What a difference it made, putting those paint pucks in there. This is like the ugly stage, right? If you're painting along, it's gonna get better. All right. Let's do the beak, because we're gonna have the separation with the mask, so we can paint the beak in. So I'm going to wet her beak in every time. Like, I'm looking up at you guys to see the chat, and I can't see with my glasses. And then when I want to get the fine details, there's something on that. I shouldn't have touched that. My brush was really wet. It's not what I wanted to do. Let me drop some more color in there. See, there's a speck there. There's something on my paper. There we go. Got it. I probably picked up something when I wiped my brush on my rag. There we go. Just add some of that in. We just let that dry. So I'm going to wet the mask. Not the mask. I am going to wet the beak. Again, I really should have rubbed out some of those pencil lines. We'll see. If they still show, I'll try to do it at the end. I pulled a little bit too much water there. That's why you saw me touch it. I want my paper to get wet, but I don't want to leave a puddle that's going to then form a weird line around that beak. So I'm just going to let that absorb in for a moment. Now let's look at this. This beak is going to be like orange. There we go. We'll mix it right there. This is really a tiny palette for me, but I'm really enjoying it. As far as mixing space goes, I'll have to show you guys. I just got it in. Was not a gift from Meaden. I purchased it with my money. Although Meaden did give me a code for a discount to grab a few things that I might like. And I think that beak definitely is going to need a little bit more. It's like a deeper red. Let's go with the permanent, some of the permanent red light and see. Nope, I'm grabbing the quinacridone red. There we go. I may even need to grab a little bit of sap green. Too much. I wanted to tone it down, but I just grabbed too much. Pulled all the water out of my brush. Can't pick anything up. But I'll have to show you guys what it just came in. It literally just got here today. I've been stalking FedEx. Does anybody else cringe when they see that their stuff has been shipped with FedEx? I do. The packages always come. They're either filthy or they're been dented and look like they were kicked around. Rob says, I am loving these colors. Have you really played with this palette yet, Rob? Because I know that you just filled some half pans for me, so I know you have all of these colors that you got in tubes. So yeah, I'm wondering. All right, I'm gonna take that lighter orange. Yeah, that's still really wet. And now you see on her beak, I left a little bit of white space. I have like this weird, I'm probably going to try to touch up that background slightly because for whatever reason, I have this like bump, like she's got a growth on her beak or something. I don't know. It's because my background water didn't touch close enough to the line. I can soften that up and I'll show you guys how. So we'll do that before it's done. I need to let that set for a minute. It is too wet. When I put in, let me just show you why I say this. So if I put this color in, if I drop it in here, it's just going to go to the whole thing. right? I can't get it in the center and keep it in the center. So if I let that dry for a little bit, it'll go from being like really, let's see if I can get that so you can see how glossy wet. There we go. Whoa, see how wet that there. See how wet that is? Super glossy. I want that to get more matte. And as soon as that starts to look like more matte and loses its shine, I will be able to take this darker orange and put it right in the center where her beak is darker. And it'll just be a nice soft transition. So that's kind of what we're waiting for on that. Another thing that I didn't do, that we can do, I forgot to put the red up in her feather. So what I'm going to do there is just taking my brush. I need it to be wet again. Oh, hi Teresa, thanks for stopping in. And we are going to re-wet this area. And then I'm going to take the color that I used down here. And we're just going to pull a little. Remember, where you lift your brush, where you stop and lift, that's where it's going to deposit more color. So if you don't want this like big pool of color right here that's going to rush into the stuff where you don't want it, don't go this way and lift off. That'll deposit a pool of color right there. You want to go away from that area and boom, it'll deposit it back here. And I hope some of those little tips help. Okay, there we go. She looks a little strange. She doesn't have, and this is dry enough. Let's paint in her tail because we're going to use that same reddish color. So I'm just going to come in here with my dirty water. Doesn't matter. It's that color. I'm leaving a space because see, she has a highlight there. It's like really white right there, and I want to leave that. And on this edge of her tail, again, I'm forgetting to erase my pencil marks, but at this point, it is what it is. But again, there's a highlight along the edge of her tail. If we look at that reference photo, and I made it come her tail, like her tail disappears in the reference. Her tail disappears into the pile of snow that's on the rail of my deck. But I went ahead and used my artistic license and made the tail come below the branch that we put her on. So I need more of our Dragon's Blood, that PBR 25. So if you don't have the Maimeri Blu colors and you want to paint this, you can do this with a burnt sienna, especially if you have a burnt sienna that is PR 101. It's going to be very similar to this color. And I'm going to want a little bit, taking a little bit of this burnt umber, the PBR 7, because I'm going to want some spaces in her tail that are darker, right? Like, and that's still a little wet. I still would like that to be, see how it just kind of quickly starts moving? It's because it's really wet. And remember, this is going to dry lighter, much lighter than what I put in here. But this is just our first layer of our bird. We are going to come back. We're going to dry this and then we're going to come back and we're going to give her another layer and give her some more details. Bring the details out. Look at that. And so again, here now we see our snow. And I made it kind of a straight line. I can fix that with Dr. P.H. Martin's. That would want to be like fluffy and bumped. Rob says the tips are nuggets of gold. I'm glad that you appreciate that. I did see your comment earlier, and my apologies because I didn't acknowledge when it came in. The you appreciating the information about the pigments, like when I was going through the colors in the palette. I think it's important. You will find that there are other artists and I that definitely disagree on the importance of learning your pigments. And I don't think it's hard. It's not hard to learn your pigment information if you write it down. Like if you're someone who swatches your colors, right? There we go. There's all my pigment. Sorry for my shaky hands, guys. All my pigment information is on there. If I write it every time I swatch colors, and granted, I understand that not everybody swatches as many colors as I do, or some of the other creators here on YouTube do in the watercolor sphere. Because we do use more watercolors than the average person, right? The average person might get a set of watercolors and that they like. I mean, unless, you know, the want monster is real. Sorry, Rob. And they don't have that many colors. So maybe you've swatched it once, but write those pigments down. Because even writing those pigments once, anytime you refer to your swatch card, you're looking at what those pigments are. And guys, I'm taking this moment to, as I'm letting this dry some, to go ahead and talk to you guys. That beak is still damp. So I'm going to go ahead while we're talking and put some of that darker orange in there. So every time you paint with them, whoa, there's a drop of water on my ferrule. Be careful of the drops of water on your ferrule. They can quickly just go right down the bristles and deposit into your painting. But every time you use your colors, if you're referring to your swatch card that's with your palette, you're going to be looking at what those pigments are. Your brain's taking that information in, which means you're going to start learning. And as you see colors, you might try another brand. And if you only pay attention to the name, the color name, guys, every manufacturer can name them whatever the heck they want. I mean, that's how, like, palettes from like Jane Davenport or Christy Rice's palette. There's a number of other palettes where it's like their names have nothing to do even with what the color might be. You know what I mean? And that's fine. It's a novelty, right? And it's fine that that's how they do it. But if you know those pigments, then you can be like, okay, well, this is PB28 or PB29. PB29 is ultramarine blue. So I know if I'm using PB29 and I like it, and that's the effect that I usually get. Like I said, I will often grab PB29 and raw sienna, either either PR101 or a PBR7 version. And I will mix that burnt sienna. This looks really bright right now. Trust me, as soon as we put in that black mask that she has, that value is going to right down, and I think it's going to look pretty darn close to what we need it. And if it doesn't, we can always lift a little out and it'll be fine. So anyways, you know, if you know that that's a mix you usually make and it works for you, you should be able, I'm just softening. Oh, I don't want to go into there. You should be able to go to any brand, and if you see the pigments that you're used to, you should have no problems going from one to another, is basically what I'm trying to say. Now, a good example is, let's take, for example, the Dr. P.H. Martin's, right? When I covered their set, the Hydra set, those are all light fast, which is wonderful. Liquid watercolor. But they call their color ultramarine. Yes, Rob, like dragon's blood. But they call their color ultramarine. It's not ultramarine. In fact, it's phthalo blue and a red pigment mixed together, and they're calling it ultramarine because it resembles ultramarine. But it's not going to granulate. That's something you get from ultramarine. It's a reason why you might go for a PBR 29 pigment. I'm just putting in some of the darker shadow. And you'll see this is definitely, like, this is not, it gives me a hard edge. And I don't want that hard edge. So what you do, I don't mind, I want the hard edge up against the wing, but I don't want it into the body. So what I do now is rinse my brush, come into the water. I am going to tap this off. I don't want this flooded with water. And then I'm going to come along right at this edge. And I'm just going to come up to the edge. There's still enough water in your brush after you tap it. And that'll just kind of soften that into the bird. So anyhow, it's not going to work like ultramarine that I'm used to. I flicked orange specks on my painting. You know what I'm saying? It's just because it's phthalo, it's staining. Whereas ultramarine just normally acts so much different. So if you don't pay attention to pigment, you might be like, oh, hey, there's ultramarine. I love that color. I need that. And you go to use it and you put it in your painting. And you're like, what is happening? What is going on? This is not right. You try to lift it out. You can't lift it out. It's phthalo blue. It's staining. It's PB15, not PB29. You're not lifting that out. That's staining right into your paper. But if you knew your pigments, you would immediately know, oh, that's a phthalo blue. Well, I don't want to put that in there. It's going to stain. Or, you know what I mean? But it helps. It really does help. So if for nothing else, to start to learn how your pigments will act and react and in work with each other as you get to know your palette, whether it be whatever brand you choose, I think knowing your pigments is really important for the learning process. I think it's important. So yeah. Rob says, isn't that why some brands call certain colors hues? Yeah, so a hue is like, it's like a cad red hue. It's not cadmium red, but it is a hue that looks like cadmium red. So when you see whatever hue, it is a pigment or mixture that looks like whatever cadmium or ultramarine, or I'm just pulling things out of my head right now, but whatever hue it is, that name that came first, it is a hue, a color that's going to resemble that, but it's not necessarily that traditional pigment that would make that. You see that a lot in cadmiums. Cadmium red hue probably doesn't contain cadmium. You know what I mean? Or like cadmium yellow, PY35. You'll also start to learn them, like which ones kind of go together. The more that you write them down and say them, the brain just like holds on to that. So like cadmium yellow, PY35. If you have a cadmium yellow hue, it's not going to be PY35 because that would be cadmium yellow. It's going to be a yellow that looks like cadmium yellow. So yes, Rob, that is, yes, to answer your question. All that to say, yep. Sorry. Okay. So we've got some color in here. I'm not going to add any more to that beak until and I actually am seeing like, it looks a little, when I look at my reference over here, I'm seeing like a little bit more red in her beak, but it's fine. This definitely needs to darken up a whole lot more. But again, I want to paint her mask in first, because I think once we do the mask, we're going to do her legs. Let's get those in next. That beak is still a little wet, so we'll go to her feet first. And looking at my reference photo, this one actually has highlight, because again, that snow causing light reflecting back up. This one is a bit darker. I think I'm just going to clean off a little space here. I should clean off this space because we've kind of used that. And look at how the water starts to make these spots. If I used that blue and that black in my painting and then spritzed with water, I'm going to get some really interesting marks. So doing that on my palette tells me that could be pretty interesting if I pop that into a painting. Yeah, all right, there we go. Toss that one aside. I need to have my thumb looked at because I'm like right into this knuckle is really starting to bother me. I'm like, no, that's my right hand. My right hand can't bother me. I paint with that one. I hold my brushes with that thumb. Like that's exactly, you know, the pressing on the brush. It's probably like a repetitive use thing. Oh, thanks, Teresa. I'm glad that you came and hung out for a little while. All right, let's see. For the legs, I'm going to take some more burnt umber, which I have burnt umber right here. We'll just go right next to that so that if I have to pull it in to this, it's available. And I'm going to take a little bit of the carbon black, which would also be lamp black in some brands. If you're painting or doing this with a different brand, it could be lamp black. All right, so this one, especially down here, coming in on the right side, this is being painted wet on dry. I think I went a little high on her. I wanted to leave a white separation there. I didn't. Grabbing another tissue. How well will this lift? I am not sure. I'll come back. We'll see how that lifts. It'll be a good way to find out. That toe I put like behind the branch. I don't want it all to be this dark, which is why I was painting this down the right side. Now I'm going to rinse my brush out. Love those paint pucks in this rinse well. I love this rinse well. I think this is like, you guys know how much I love my paint pucks, and I'm like, Rob says nothing that Dr. P.H. Martins won't fix. That is true. It could fix this, but I just want to see how well that will lift. I like it. So I just took a damp, not wet. You saw me dry my brush. So I clean water, and then the brush needs to get dried off. There will still be plenty of moisture in this brush to come through and loosen that pigment from the surface of your paper, and then press and lift with your I like a piece of tissue because it's much more absorbent. It absorbs faster, I think, than the paper towel. And I can just kind of press that right there. I have more control. So I personally prefer that. But yeah. All right. Okay, so again, you see I've dabbed my brush. I'm going to come down. I'm just going to come through to the left edge of the leg, across the tops of the toes. And I may have let this pigment set while I was, lifting that. I might have let it set too long. I'm just going to come back in with my umber. And I'm just with the tip of my brush, barely touching the paper, just coming along the edge where my burnt umber was, so that I get a smoother transition. The umber will spread towards the water side. We'll do it again on this one. I will try not to get distracted this time. So again, I'm going to, now this one does come over because it actually kind of comes out from the feathers like this. Right? This one's behind the bird. This one's on our side of the bird. So I'm going to paint down that leg. Again, I'm going to go down the right side. Does not need to be a perfect line. Don't worry if your hands are shaky. Right, I skipped some space with the little toe, and I definitely want the underneath of this one. And this foot, or this whole leg, like I said, was a little lighter. So now I'm rinsing my brush again, putting into my clean water, drying this brush off, and now I'm going to just make the strokes down that left side. You see the color is just going to start to naturally blend over there. If your brush starts to feel too dry, do the process again. It's important to, this step is important because there will be way too much water in your brush if you come straight out of that rinse, your rinsing well, and straight to your paper. You will be like, oh no, what have I done? See, it's like already drying on my palette. See, I didn't even grab any more water, and that was dry, and look at how it re-wet it. Like I said, there's going to be plenty of water in your brush still. And can I just say, I am liking these brushes so far from Meeden, and the price, guys, check the Meeden website out. The price for the 10 brushes, now, I'm not thrilled about all the sizes or shapes that they chose. However, that even with that, I think that these I think they're a good value for what you're going to pay for the number of brushes that you're going to get. And they're definitely springy. These are a springy brush. They are a synthetic. There's plenty of spring. If a soft brush is hard for you to use, like the Silver Black Velvets and the Prince of Neptunes, those are really, so the Prince of Neptune is the softest brush I have, and which means it, you know, it has the less spring. Like when I press on the bristles, you see how it comes right back to its shape. It springs back straight. Right? No matter what I do, it's springing right back. If I did that with the Neptunes, I could press like this and I could keep my brush like that. That would just stay. It's really soft. The Silver Black Velvets aren't as soft, in my opinion, but they're still softer. But these have great spring. Tara, actually, you know what? I'm so glad you just said that. So Tara says, I'd say that rinse well would arrive to me broken. That rinse well came to me. Meeden packs these things. Like, this was encased in thick styrofoam, but not like hard styrofoam. It has some squish ability. So if it gets bumped, and then that was in its Meeden box. And then when they shipped that to me, where this shipped out of, they literally took bubble wrap, put it around the package, taped the bubble wrap, slapped the label on it, stuck it in the mail. I was like, I've never received something from Meeden that looked like that. I was so shocked when I got it. That came in, I thought for sure, I was like, is that going to survive? If it could make it like that, I'm sure it will be in a box. Like, I was not expecting that at all. And let me just, while I let this dry for a moment, Let me share with you guys what came in today. I am like really excited. Oh my gosh. It is heavy. If you follow me on Instagram, I think I posted this on Instagram today. So this came in. It's not even fitting on my screen. This is plastic. Look at this monster. Let me just like give you a, yeah, it like fills the space. This thing is, it's huge. I said, wow, I'm gonna have to figure out how I work this on my desk. But that is what I chose. Oh my gosh, that is heavy. That sucker's not moving. You put that on your desk, it is not moving. So anyhow, I am going to be starting an adventure. I'm going to be testing the pigments that I want on that palette. Good question, Rob. There are, I'm like, can I see the box? It would probably help me answer it so much faster. 32. Pretty sure that says, I'm pretty sure that says 32 deep wells. If it's different, I'll let you know. But anyhow, it's all the way around. And so it goes all the way around, and then there's like 2 in each corner in the triangles. Gorgeous palette. Yeah, I can't wait. But what I want to do is I want to take like all the pigments that I know I want in my palette and grab those from all the brands I have and find out which is my favorite. And that is not going to be a specific brand of paint. It is going to be my favorite versions of the pigments that I want to make up my palette. And that will become my studio palette, that when I'm painting for pure joy, for me, creating, you know, a painting that I'm going to sell. And obviously they're also going to be all professional and all light fast paints. That's going to be what I use. I want that as my studio palette. These 2 spots are bugging me. I splashed orange. Yeah, I'm going to end up like pulling spots out of my background if I mess with it. They are what they are. Okay, let's do, well, the legs. I do like how this one has come out. It definitely is lighter. We don't certainly see some of that highlight. Yeah. Let me show you the point on this brush. There's a lot of water on my brush. There's too much water. There we go. I want black. I want it to be black, 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 black. Just trying to like tick the talons on here. And it definitely holds its point. Love it. Okay. I definitely recommend though, if you go for one of these rinse wells, the mini paint pucks come in a package of like, I think it's like 5 or 6 in a package, maybe 4 to 6, maybe somewhere, but it's multiple. There'd be plenty to do both in one, and even to have a few extras. I'm just taking a quick look at my reference. All right. We're going to use more of this carbon black. When I do the eye, I'm going to try really hard. And if I'm not successful, well, you know what? There's always Dr. Paige Martins. I'm going to leave a little spot. See that point? I mean, look at the lines that you can do. And this is the largest round. Like, I'm not switching from this round to go grab a detail brush because it's such a small space. And I want to make sure that I can leave that little highlight in the eye. I don't need to. Not with this brush. I can just, see that? Go right after it. This is where it starts to give it character. Okay, so the eyeball is the blackest. That's what I want for my blackest black. Right, my darkest value there. And now let's paint the rest of the mask. I want to bring in some of, well, I have it here, but I need more. We're going to mix some of that burnt umber, brain quit. If I had raw umber, I would just paint this mask with raw umber. If this was a male cardinal, I would paint this mask with black. But the females, the colors are all just a little softer. There we go. So we are going to catch it up here. Now I'm not going to worry right at that edge. It's okay if I leave a little spot. In fact, I'm trying to leave a bit of a highlight. She has feathers, right? This dark stuff is also feathers, so don't try to paint a perfect line. It's not a perfect line. I want more brown. I'm gonna come up, come around that eye, and I actually want to make it a little softer. Grabbing a little bit more water, tap it on my brush. Now that my brush has water in it, and if I come back, now you see I'm making a much lighter version of this. I can darken this up if I need to or want to. She's just gonna all of a sudden just start to come to life. I'm glancing up at my reference photo that you guys see there on the screen. You see there's like a white spot here. I don't want it to go all the way over to there. I will just, when I touch up the body and add the rest in there, I'll fill in that space. All right, so now I'm getting a little bit of the darker value. And just coming in here, dropping some of that in. And it also comes, it comes out like this. And I'm just taking the very tip of my brush and just kind of tapped that line that you see on the reference photo. I think I'm also going to take a little bit of this color and just line right in tight to my wing and really get a little bit more shadow under there. There we go. I need to let that dry. So while that dries, let's come back down here to our branch. I feel like I just flicked water on my paper somewhere. All of a sudden we'd see a circle start to appear. We definitely need to darken her body up, but we're going to come to the branch, and because I put that blue, that Faience blue, I'm telling you now, it's Seance. It's like, I'm going to do it, Joseph. I'm going to be like, that's Seance blue. The Faience blue into the sky. I'm going to mix that up with, I don't know why I rinsed for that. I was just going into black. With some of that carbon black. So just like I did for my sky. And that is going to, that was way too dark. But that's okay. I've got plenty there that I can work with. That's going to be some of the shadows. Some shadow colors in my snow. I think I want to wet that first. I want this to kind of mingle, like move around. I don't want hard edges. So wetting the area that I left white above my branch. Put a little bit too much water in near the foot there. That's why you saw me tap that out. Now I touched that border. That really, I reactivated some of that brown. And now we'll just take a little bit of this and it's a little dark. It just tells me I need a little bit more water. All right, lighten up that value. Grab some of the extra water out of my brush. And now I'm just going to pop in. See, I'm not trying to do the whole thing. If you get a little carried away, just dab it. We want this to look more like, hey, there's snow here. Now we're starting to get some shadows. Perhaps more shadow here where the foot, because the foot's going to be casting a shadow into that snow. And perhaps a little bit more right underneath where the bird is. Okay. I think I like that. I'm going to kind of let that be. But one thing I am going to do though, is I'm going to take my shadow color here that's darker. And I think I'm going to go right along, right up at this edge. And I'm just going to kind of go here and there and put maybe like a little shadow under the edge of where the white is, because the snow is sitting on that branch. And this will kind of give me some separation. A very famous painter once said, you can't have dark without light, and you can't have light without dark. And we'll see how many of you know exactly who I'm talking about. And if you want that light to really kind of stand out, darken up next to it. And that's going to kind of lift right off that branch. Oh, those are great questions, Rob. So Rob asked, because he has to run, and I will try to answer these before I run, Rob. Would you recommend Maimeri Blu? How did it wet and re-wet? Other than ultramarine blue, what would you add to that palette? So they re-wet in the pans beautifully. When I just pulled through there and touched that brown, I think some colors re-wet on the paper a little easier than others. We're just going to touch up put some details into the body, and we're going to be done. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to re-wet over the body, because I still want this to be nice and soft. I'm not going to put a lot of strokes over this to re-wet it, and my brush is not soaked. You see I keep wiping that off. I don't want to move the pigment that's already on the paper, and I think this is a good test to see and answer one of Rob's questions, like for how do they re-wet? This is my question for how do they also layer? If I want to layer and bring some more wet into wet, you see that did not really disturb those colors at all. Again, I am not scrubbing into those colors. So there is our PBR 25. I'm not sure, Rob. Rob says Arlo Guthrie. I'm not sure if Arlo Guthrie also said it. I was referring to Bob Ross. Bob Ross always used to say that when he'd be painting. You can't have light without dark, and you can't have dark without light. Okay. We want a little bit more of the red in here. And now I'm kind of letting this skip around. Made it really dark, didn't it? These colors are going to start to blend. I'm getting a little bit of edges that I know will show up as hard edges later. So just with a clean brush, I'm going to blend a little bit of that at the edge through, because I don't want hard edges. I want it to be a nice soft transition from one to the next. Okay, and let's darken up some areas on that body. So I had my burnt umber and my green gold. Right. Let's work a little bit of that in here. I'm just looking at my reference photo. Trying to remember like her body, that the shape, the roundness of her body. Probably already went a little too low there. That's okay. It's lighter here. I'm just kind of working on with the side, like into the belly of the brush. And we need to darken up kind of over the shoulder. I'm just taking my wet brush and pulling some of this up through. There's definitely a lighter spot, which would be like in between the breast and coming down to the legs. So I'm going to kind of leave that. In fact, I'm going to lift a little bit of color if I can to help emphasize that. This here where the leg comes down, we're going to have a little bit more shadowing here. That's a little dark. Well, I'm going to lighten that up. Just a clean brush, dry it off, and come back over that area. There we go. Oh my gosh, that's funny, Rob. I'm trying to remember all your questions too and answer as I'm finishing up here. There we go. Just slowly building up as I'm looking at my reference for different ways that the body shape. I'm liking this color here, so I'm going to mix a little bit in with what I was using. And let's look at that wing. That wing comes this way. Just a touch more water into this, a little bit more of that mixture with the umber and the green gold. Pull that up. Thinking of her shoulder. Her shoulder, you figure that wing, it comes around. Right? We see that in our reference photo. It doesn't look like I have a lot of color here, but as I am adding this layer, I don't need a ton of color on my, I don't need a ton of pigment, I should say, on my brush. And if I do something like that right there, it kind of feels a little dark to me, but then again, it doesn't. I just want to kind of soften the edge, so I'll do that in a second. Yeah, no, actually I like that. I really am almost done, Rob. I understand that you might have to pack, but safe travels if you're headed out somewhere. I'm hearing you say you have to pack, so I'm guessing. Oh yes, remember that spot I told you? We need to bring that color right up to the black. Yeah, definitely. Safe trip, Rob. Just lifting a little bit of that out. There we go. Again, I just keep looking at my reference photo for where do I want to make this a little darker. I missed getting to hang out with all of you last week in the stream. Coming down through just with that little that I had in my brush. I'm gonna wet that wing again. I need a little bit more darker. I definitely need darker under in the tail too. So I'm gonna do that. Just softening this edge. I don't want hard edges. And I think she needs a little bit more. Look at that, how the pigment just kind of pushes that away. Darkening up her mask. It was certainly a bit darker than I wanted. I didn't rinse my brush out, so I had the darker color from her mask in there, which is fine. And just soften it and pull it around. There we go. As long as I didn't come flooding in with a lot of water. And it just looks dry brush. So just with a damp brush, I can come along behind the edge, soften it up. I think she needs a little bit more red. Going for the Quin red in this beak area, kind of where the beak comes together. And they definitely, their beak colors, I mean, it's definitely, I don't know where else, if you can think of a place, like even monarch butterflies, the orange in monarchs are not as orange as the orange in a cardinal's beak. I don't know where else in nature we would see that kind of bright orange. All right, coming back in for her tail. There's more highlight right in this area. So this is wet and wet. And I know that behind the branch, you know, that branch is there, we're going to have a little bit more shadow. So we're going to put it dark in that. But I'm going to drop more pigment just under her. She would definitely is dark. She's definitely darker there. And I'm coming into the Umber and Dragon's Blood mixture. That PBR 25. And on this side, there's a highlight along the edge. So just dropping more pigment in along that side. And I need more brown. That should work. That's better. If you like to hang out and paint together in real time, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and join us here live pretty much every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I love hanging out with all of you. And if you paint from one of the projects that we do, please do tag me on social media. I am at Clark Fine Art pretty much everywhere except Instagram. On Instagram, I am at Clark Fine Art. Giving a little bit more kind of feathers and direction there with her wing. Just kind of taking a last look. I do think we could even go almost a little darker. Like, let's not be afraid to go dark. Watercolor dries lighter. Right up here underneath. And along this edge, alongside that highlight. Okay. I'm going to hit this with the heat tool and give it a little quick dry, and I'm going to put a couple highlights in, probably with the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. And I think we're going to call this one done. Trying to think of Rob's question there. As far as oh, the bright, she also has the bright orange on a crab, maybe. Well, you know what, you would use it like if it was a cooked shrimp or a cooked lobster, they turn bright orange. I'm sure crabs turn. I haven't seen a crab that bright orange unless it was cooked. That's not to say that there aren't. Certainly not to say that there aren't. Okay. I'm just going to grab my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. And that's, I'm actually starting to get down in the bottle here. I'm going to grab this palette and just set it on my other one. Just pop that in a well so I don't have to go back into my container once I start painting. And there we go. Right? Yeah, I guess like on other birds and stuff like that. Yeah, Joseph, I would see, but I just think I'm like, oh, a cardinal's beak is just definitely so like, wow. All right, actually, nobody wants to hear the porcelain clink on the porcelain. Just going to help emphasize this. Sort of highlight that comes down that tail. Okay, a little bit on maybe the top edge of her beak there, and then a little bit here. I'm going to give a little bit more to her eye. I think the rest of this is fine. Let's just fluff up the edge so that we don't have a hard line here that's dark for our snow. Once this completely dries, I'll go over it with an eraser anywhere if I still see pencil lines and try to lift those out. But I'm even coming over a little bit of where I put my shadow color. If I thin the Dr. P.H. Martin's, it is definitely going to become more transparent. And you can get some interesting values too doing that. I'm going to put a few specks in here. I know I wanted the shadow from the bird because he's she. I said he, she. Definitely a she. Would be casting part of the shadow. I felt like the tail was coming into the snow, and I just wanted to make it look like that tail's behind the snow for sure. And I mean, I've sent samples out to, like, I sent some to Joseph, the bleed proof white, so that he could give it a try. And I am liking that. I like the branch a lot better. So you guys can see that up close. Her little cardinal just looking. I'm loving how the eye has turned out. Maybe we'll put a little bit of highlight. You can just rub that through. There we go. Yes. So I just kind of brushed that on and then just wiped it with my fingers. More like gouache. All right. Oh, I told you I would show you how to take care of that. So let me bring that up close so you really see what I'm talking about. I have a hard edge right here. And that is with my background color. And I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a damp brush first. And I'm going to kind of just go over that spot. But if I take a small piece of tissue, right? And I want it damp. So just barely touch that in my water. I want it damp, not wet. I can come in. I'm going to turn this around because it's definitely going to be easier to come at it from this angle. I can come in with that damp tissue and just sort of rub that area. And I'm going to soften up that edge. I definitely would do this at the end because rubbing your paper can damage your paper. we go. I'm just going to kind of touch that up. Much softer. I can come back in with my beak, color that I used on my beak, right? And just straighten that out. There we go. Now I don't have that big bump out, and it kind of knocked that spot down. Hope that was a little useful tip. Okay, so now I think I'm actually going to sign it right here. I think this, I'm going to sign it over here. And I have recently, I shared this in a video when I unboxed all those art boxes that were sitting around. I had shared this mono twin from Tombow, and it has a really fine point on one end and a little bit bolder bullet nib on the other. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be waterproof. I have found if I want to do some line work, I can absolutely use this and then come back, let that dry and come back with watercolor. It doesn't move at all. I love this pen. Definitely would recommend. So let me just... $24. Only a few with 24 on them. Haven't had not too many paintings yet. I like him. He could be definitely be popped into a frame. He's a cute one. So there we go. And so another, like I said, you could always take your pen if you wanted to even get darker, or if you needed to add any definition like to the eyeball itself. Don't be afraid to come back afterwards with some line work. You can do that. It's your painting. Okay. Sheila says that must be what I was thinking. Yeah, it's the yummy cooked ones. They are definitely bright orange. I'm hearing Discord. I don't know if you guys can hear Discord, but I'm hearing Discord going off. And I really hope that some of you who have been gifted Superfan memberships will come join us over on the Discord server. Again, I have a community tab post that will tell you how to connect Discord with your YouTube. So as long as you have gone into Discord and created yourself a Discord account, that's the first step. Then you can connect it to YouTube. And then once that's done, I have a special bot that talks to YouTube, and it will automatically give you access as a superfan. So yeah, that's all you have to do. And it's in the community tab, walks you right through it. So just go to youtube.com/@ClarkFineArt and click on the community tab, and you'll find the post there. Yeah. So if you enjoyed this one today, I hope that you will give it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed yet, it's free. I welcome you to do so. Huge thank you to patrons and members. And also, Rob, thank you so much for your continued support. You are an awesome channel member, and I appreciate you. I appreciate the paints. So let's talk about, before I pop another video up here, let us talk real quick. Do I recommend these paints? I don't know. I want to paint with them some more. This was just one. You know, I need to do some really big wet and wet type wash. I need to do a landscape. I need to paint what I normally love painting, and then I will be able to form a better opinion. So I'm going to reserve my... Do I recommend that you run out and buy Maimeri Blu? Well, if you liked what you saw today, sure, go for it. If it's something you've always wanted to try, absolutely. They re-wet beautifully. I loved the way I was able to glaze over on the bird doing the other layers, and what was down first didn't move. I'm going to be sharing with you soon. It'll be in a week or so, because I've got a few videos recorded that I have to edit, and I know there are things coming. This is going to be pushed out just a little bit. So, let me just turn that off for a moment. There's a video coming where I talk about, there's a paint that I've tried that doesn't glaze well. And this glazed beautifully. Love that about it. The wet and wet wash in the background, you guys can't see. That wet and wet wash in the background, how the colors dispersed. Yeah, I really like it. I really liked how they're not big movers. Um, at least not the colors we use today. They're not big movers. But that said, I think they disperse in a wet wash very nicely. Very easy to re-wet from dried pan. So yes, taking your tube paint, drying it into a pan. Let me bring that back to a good overhead view, because look at how the paint's dried. This transparent yellow, which is PY150, that had the most shrinkage. The PBR7 it had some as well. It's pulled away like from the side here. That is very normal for PBR7 to dry like that, so no big deal there. All in all, they dried down really nicely. The green gold, there's, you know, a little crack where it pulled away, the separated as it was drying. Still not a big deal. They're staying secure in the pans. You certainly can re-wet them very easily. You see some of the colors dried down like just gorgeous. I mean, they will pull, they will shrink. All watercolors do, as the water is evaporated out of them. But yeah, all in all, I loved it. The Quin red, that pulled away from the side slightly. But when that one was poured, because I actually poured that one, there was a little binder separation at the very beginning of the tube, and there was extra of that binder here. So as all that evaporated, it did pull over. But yeah, great. They are definitely not one that I would worry about buying tubes and creating your own half pans. It worked very well. So far, yes, Rob, I would definitely recommend them. So far, these brushes, I love the brushes I used today from the ones that Meaden sent me. So far, those were a yes. So far, those are a definite yes. I will be painting with them more and we'll do a video just dedicated to those brushes to really talk about them, or at least give them more time in a video coming up. But yeah, I would agree with so far, I like them. What else? I think that answered all of Rob's. Oh, what other colors might I recommend? Rob, I'm maybe a burnt sienna. I don't know what Maimeri Blu uses, if it is a PR 101 or a PBR 7. If it's a PBR 101, definitely I would recommend adding maybe the burnt sienna. PBR 25 is very similar though, so that would be one that I wouldn't be like, oh, I need to add that right away. I would be really curious to see how their ultramarine blue, the PB29, I'd be really curious to see how theirs looks in comparison to others. Is it a heavier granulator, or is it a more smooth version of the color? That would be interesting. As far as, I'm just looking here, you've got a phthalo blue, maybe another more earthy green. Sometimes those can be hard for people to mix, but if you can mix them well, I think they can be mixed with this palette. These choices, I think you can mix an earthy green very easy with the choices you have here. Maybe I'll have to do that. I don't know if you're going to be in chat tomorrow, patron chat. Maybe I'll jump on, turn on the camera in the chat on Discord and show you some mixing with these colors. If that would be of value to you, let me know. I'm not sure. You said you're traveling, so I don't know if you're joining us tomorrow, but that is another thing. If you become a member of the channel or a patron at the community level or above, you get to join us for chats every week, and we have a lot of fun. We talk about art stuff. We talk about all kinds of stuff. So yeah, other than that, you have a nice warm red with the Pyrrole red light. The Quin red is a lot cooler, but you also have the primary red magenta, so you have another cool red there. Yeah, I really think if you wanted more granulating, you might consider also having a PBK 11 if they offer a PBK 11. I don't know the Maimeri Blu line, so I'm not sure, and I don't know what they would call that color, but normally that's like a Mars black, PBK 11. That is your granulating black. So if you want to make some moody, like I'm thinking this Prussian blue or even the Faience blue with like a Mars black, that would make some moody, some real good atmosphere in like a landscape painting. Maybe a neutral tint or Payne's Gray. They have that. I'm really curious. Is there Payne's Gray? Is it more a warm Payne's Gray or a cooler Payne's Gray? I don't know why everything looks so dark in the studio today, other than it's pitch black outside. Anyhow, yeah, so I hope that helped answer more of your questions, Rob, as far as what I might add to that palette. But all in all, I think you have a great palette here to start working with, and I actually prefer the limited palette. I don't think you need a ton of colors, and if we need to get more into that, draw me a comment, because we will. I mean, it is wonderful to have like 50 colors, but a lot of those convenience colors, unless it is a color you are mixing over and over and over again while you're painting, using up the colors that you need to create that color, then I wouldn't waste your money buying the convenience colors if you can mix them. But if it's a color like Lunar Blue, I love Lunar Blue. So to save on my Lunar Black, speaking Daniel Smith, or my Mars Black, and Phthalo Blue, I'll just get the Lunar Blue because it's already mixed for me, and that saves. And you're going to see, please tune in on Sunday, be 5 p.m. Eastern time. I have revamped my Daniel Smith palette. I took my entire Daniel Smith collection was spread out on this desk, and I went through everything. Some things got full pans. All the colors got into, or I should say most all the colors got into my new palette. It is a 52 space palette. Do you need 52 spaces? No, you don't, but oh, it is a lot of fun, and I loved doing that video. There's a lot of interesting information. If you've wondered, are their pans, their sticks, and their tubes the same? I'm going to show you in that video, so tune in on Sunday evening. It's a longer one, but I do hope that you'll hang out with me and put it on while you're doing something, and just listen, whatever. When something catches, your interest more, pop over and take a peek. But please do check that out on Sunday. And then on Tuesday, as long as the video gets edited, I have a really brand new series, something all new, kind of new, you'll see, coming on Tuesday. So now huge thank you to the mods. Check out their channels. They are linked below. And I will pop another video up right about there that you might like to watch next. If you're watching this on replay, thanks for still being with me. Yeah, you're appreciated. And I will see you maybe over there. Catch you next time, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.